Hi everyone, welcome back to Falcon's House. This is the Lost Rewatch series, and this is the last set for Season 1. This is covering the last 4 episodes of that season. And there is a podcast coming out with some of my other friends who also were watching for the first time, and some that had already seen it, and they asked some questions about what we thought. And that should be coming out shortly, and I'll have a separate video with the link to that. So, the first episode out of this set, Shannon is at the caves with Boone's body when Sayid asks her if there is anything that he can do. Jack is in the jungle trying to find Locke when Kate catches up to him and convinces him to go back and rest. When they get back to the beach, they bury Boone. During the funeral, Locke shows up and tells them about the plane, but it isn't enough to convince them, and Jack attacks him. Locke tries to apologize to Shannon, saying that it was an accident, and that he wouldn't have had Boone go up there if he knew that he was going to get hurt. Shannon asks Sayid to do something about Locke, kind of hinting that she wants him to hurt him or kill him or something. In the flashback, Sayid gets arrested at Heathrow Airport, where he is questioned by the CIA and told that they know where Nadia is, and that where they will tell her where to find. They'll tell him where to find her if he helps them track an old friend of his who has become a terrorist in Australia. Sayid has been traveling all over the world in search of Nadia, spending a few months here or a few weeks there, kind of thing, so he's really interested in this information. Sayid is able to make contact with the terrorists by going to a mosque and accidentally running into his friend Assam. Assam takes him back to his apartment where the rest of them are, and Sayid finds a listening device in the smoke alarm that helps them to trust him by him taking it out and putting it in water as to show that he has some information or some knowledge that they can use. He finds out that Assam doesn't want to do the attack and hurt innocent people. He tells this to the CIA, but they tell him to get Assam to do it so they can catch him and get the explosives so that nobody else gets hurt. Sayid refuses, but they threaten Nadia's freedom as a suspected terrorist if he doesn't do what they say. He is able to convince Assam to do it, and when they leave to carry out the attack, Sayid tells Assam that he is working for the CIA to get Nadia's location. Assam gets mad, threatens Sayid with a gun before then killing himself. Sayid is mad that the government is going to cremate his body instead of burying it, and delays his flight one day so he can claim the body and do a proper Muslim burial. Back on the island, Claire is getting overwhelmed by taking care of the baby, and Charlie convinces her to take a break while he watches the baby, who he calls Turnip Head. After a while, he is not able to get the baby to stop crying, even though the baby isn't hungry or has a soiled diaper. Hurley tries to sing the baby a song, but that doesn't help either. Eventually they are near Sawyer, and when Sawyer starts talking, the baby stops crying, and they are able to convince Sawyer to read to the baby until Claire comes back. Kate is taking care of Jack and drugs him with sleeping pills so that he can rest instead of trying to chase after Locke. While he is sleeping, Sayid goes to question Locke, and Locke tells him to go into the jungle with him so he can show him the plane. On the way, he goes and asks Locke a bunch of questions, and Locke realizes that he's being interrogated and says so. When they reach the plane, Sayid tells Locke that he knows that he has a gun that isn't part of the other 5 guns that they know of, and Locke gives Sayid the gun and tells him he is the one who knocked Sayid out when he was trying to triangulate the location of the transmission, saying that everybody was so concerned with getting off the island it was better if they didn't know, and that it was for the good of the group. Sayid gets mad about this and points the gun at Locke and asks him about the hatch. Locke says Boone was talking about the hatch on the plane. Locke is really good at manipulating people and telling him just what they need to hear or want to hear. And sometimes it seems like he almost has like inside knowledge about what they're doing or wanting. When Saeed returns to the beach, he tells Shannon that he doesn't think Locke meant to kill Boone. Jack wakes up and the key for the gun case is missing. They realize that Shannon is the one that took it. She gets a gun and confronts Locke in the jungle right as Jack, Kate, and Saeed show up. They attempt to talk her down and fail, and she tries to shoot Locke, and Saeed tackles her right as the gun goes off so that the bullet only grazes Locke's head. Saeed later goes to see Locke and tells him that he only saved him because he is the best chance they have for survival, and that he needs to take him to the hatch. As the raft nears completion, Charlie is talking to Kate about how famous they are going to be when they are rescued. One of the people in the group, who is a high school science teacher named Arts, says that the recent rain they've had will be a precursor to a monsoon season, which will cause the winds to shift south, and that they really need the winds to go north to push them back into the shipping lanes so they can be rescued. He says that they needed to leave yesterday and are trying to leave as soon as possible or they have to wait 4 months for the monsoon season to be over, and then they could leave. This forces everyone working on the raft to work harder so that they can get it done immediately. Kate tries to get a spot on the raft, but Michael says that there are no spots available. She is able to convince him to drop Sawyer for her, saying that she knows how to sail and she has other skills. And what Sawyer contributed to the raft burnt up when the first raft burned. Michael tells Sawyer this, who then confronts Kate about the fact that she's a criminal, and that's why she is so eager to leave. In the flashback, Kate is at a motel where she is changing identities by washing blonde hair dye out of her hair and stealing the license plate off a car. She claims a letter under an alias, and the letter causes her to return home to visit her mother, who is dying in the hospital. She hides in the car of her ex-boyfriend, who is a doctor at the hospital, and waits for him to leave before telling him why she's there. After they go to his house, and she finds out that he is married with a child and has moved on in his life. He is able to schedule an MRI for her mother when they can go see her. They have a few hours to kill and go dig up a childhood time capsule that they buried under a tree. Inside the box is the toy airplane that Kate had gotten from the marshal's case, and a tape they made when they were buried the time capsule talking about the future, about being together and all sorts of things. So obviously none of that actually came true, and they went their separate ways, and whatever Kate did to get in trouble started happening. They then go to the hospital, and Tom leaves her mother in the hallway so Kate can talk to her. Kate apologizes for what she has put her mother through, but her mother is still mad at her and starts screaming for help. Kate leaves and is stopped by a police officer, who she knocks over and gets back to Tom, who gives her his car keys so she can run away. He gets in the car with her to escape, and she tells him to get out and just to stay with his life, but he doesn't want to lose her again. He doesn't want to, but he's willing to become an accomplice, and she doesn't want him to. When they get blocked by the police, she pushes him again to leave, but he doesn't. And then she rams the police car, and the police officer shoots at them. The police officer ended up killing Tom, and police killings are still a big part of society, even 10 years after this show was on. and it seems like a case where excessive force was used, since they are not threatening the officer, and he could have just gotten out of the way. She then crashes the car and gets out and runs off. Back on the island, Saeed and Jack meet Locke at the hatch. Jack asks why Locke hasn't told anybody about it, aside from Boone. Locke says that Jack has done the same thing with the guns, and he thought that it was best for the group, and that Jack isn't in charge of anybody, and that they all are allowed to keep secrets. Jack then agrees with Locke that the hatch should be open, when Saeed disagrees and says that they don't know what they're going to find inside, and that it is closed with no way of opening it for a reason. After Michael drinks some water, he starts feeling sick and cramping, and Jack tries to figure out what is wrong with him and notices some powder on the bottom of the water bottle. Thinking that he also has been poisoned, Michael assumes it was Sawyer who is mad for getting kicked off the raft. Kate becomes a suspect for trying to create an open seat on the raft. After Jack confronts her, she says that she is not capable of such a thing. Walt tells Locke that he isn't the one who did it this time, since Locke might suspect him because he burned the first draft. Locke tells him that he doesn't have to worry about it. Walt then becomes scared of Locke and keeps telling him to not open it. Since we know Walt is different, there's something more going on in the hatch than what is expected, or what we're going to find out shortly once they open it. It has to be more than just a hatch. There has to be something going on that is going on with it. Sawyer offers Michael some antacid. Michael is mad at him for poisoning him. Sawyer then exposes Kate and the fact that she was a criminal and was a prisoner on the plane. She had previously doctored a passport. That he then exposes this, and we find out that she was using Joanna's passport after she died. After the raft is completed, Jack talks to Sun about the poisoning and says that he knows that she did it to get Jin to stay on the island, and that she probably mixed up the water bottles. Sun then talks to Kate, saying that it was Kate's idea, but that she didn't tell Jack that it was. That night, Sawyer is the one going on the raft, and Kate makes peace with him. Walt tells his father that he is responsible for the fire that destroyed the first raft, and then Michael gives him the option of staying this time, and he says no, that he's ready to leave the island. The last episode of the season is broken into 3 parts on Hulu, but I'm going to treat it as one big episode because it's more or less what it is. Rousseau shows up at the beach camp to warn them that the others are coming. Who are the others? We don't really know, aside from the fact that Ethan, we don't really know anything about them. Rousseau had said previously that she hears them whispering, and Saeed had said that he heard the same thing when he was leaving her camp the first time. How did they get to the island? How long have they been here? She tells them some history about her. She was pregnant when she arrived at the island, and 1 week after arriving, she gave birth to a daughter, Alex. They saw a column of black smoke, and then after that, the others came and kidnapped Alex. She tells them that they have 3 options for dealing with the others: run, hide, or die. She said she can melt into the jungle, but they have 40-something people, and it's going to be a lot harder of time for them to avoid the others. When they are finishing the raft, Walt notices a column of black smoke in the distance. As they push the raft into the water, Sawyer misses a push and causes some damage to the mast. He then goes into the jungle to cut a new piece so they can rebuild it. The survivors tell Rousseau about the hatch, and that it should allow them to all hide inside, but they need to find a way to open it. She tells them that the black rock has some dynamite nearby, and they can use it to blow open the hatch. Jack goes into the jungle to give Sawyer a gun and says that he is the only one on the raft that knows how to operate one. Sawyer tells Jack that he met a doctor named Christian at the bar and tells Jack that his dad respected him and was proud of him, but just wasn't able to tell him that, and that he didn't make the phone call that he had told him that he would. For the first time in the series, the flashbacks cover more than one person. The first flashback is with Walt waking up and watching TV loudly in a hotel room after Michael has taken over watching him. When Michael asks him to turn it down, he turns it up more and then leaves the room with Vincent. Michael chases after him and brings him back to the room, saying that he is his father, and then Walt says he's not his father and that Brian is. Jack talks to another passenger on the flight who is going to be in the tail section at the airport bar. They flirt a little, and Jack says that he is no longer married. I am not convinced that the people in the tail section are dead, and they just crashed on a different part of the island. Sawyer is being deported from Australia for fighting with a government official, and that they know his real identity is James Ford. Kate is in a holding area with the marshal, who is being asked why he needs 5 guns to transport her. He then says that he trapped her with a toy airplane and explained the story of how she robbed the bank for it and killed the other robbers. He then insults her ex, and she attacks him, but he fights her off, and he says that's why he needs 5 guns. Shannon is waiting for Boone to get them upgraded to first class, but he is not able to because she was rude to the ticket counter person. Saeed asks her to watch his bag. She then leaves and tells a police officer that an Arab-looking guy has left his bag unattended. Sun and Jin are eating at a cafe, and she is being really nice to him, while some Americans are making fun of her for doing whatever he says, and the guy comments that the divorce rate there is 20 times lower. Jin then goes to the restroom and is approached by a white man who speaks Korean and tells him that he works for Sun's father and that he knows Jin is trying to run away and that they will never be free, and then he should just deliver the watch like he's supposed to and then return home. Charlie wakes up in a hotel room with a girl he met in a bar and got high with. She asks him if he has any more drugs, and he has 1 bag left, but he lies and says that they are out so that he can keep it for himself. She then realizes that he is lying and attacks him. Michael calls his mother while waiting at the airport with Walt and asks her to take him and so that he doesn't have to raise Walt. He offers her money, and then Walt overhears the last part of the conversation. Hurley's bad luck continues as he tries to leave, waking up late because his alarm didn't work. He gets a flat tire on the way to the airport, ends up in the wrong terminal after being forced to buy a second seat. He then runs across the terminal, somehow loses the bag on the way that is never explained, and then after buying a scooter from an old guy is able to reach the gate just as they are closing it and is able to get on the flight. And the gate number is gate 23, which is one of the numbers that we know about. Jack, Kate, Hurley, and Arts, along with Locke and Rousseau, go towards the Black Rock to get the dynamite. Arts goes so that he can help with proper handling of the dynamite. Once they reach the dark territory, he gets scared and decides to go back to the beach. As he leaves, they hear the monster, and then Arts comes running back, being chased. Locke figures out to stay still is the best defense, and it doesn't notice him. After it leaves, Rousseau says that it is a security system that protects the island. The raft is ready to launch, and Saeed gives them a radar emitter and a flare gun to help get rescued by finding a boat and then shooting off the flare gun. Charlie collects messages from people and puts them in a bottle so that their families will know that they're okay. Walt leaves Vincent with Shannon, saying that he will protect her and she can talk to him since everyone else is afraid to talk to her after Boone died and they don't know how to handle it. Sun gives Jin a book of translations about how to pronounce English words that are used in sailing. but he still wants to go and able to help her get rescued, rather than stay on the island with her. The raft gets launched, and the team that went to the Black Rock discover that it is a wooden sailing ship. Based on the city that it sailed from, which is probably Portsmouth, Virginia, it is probably hundreds of years old. Which really brings the question as to how long have people been coming to the island. It may have been a lot longer than expected, and that the age of Adam and Eve that they had dubbed on the island in the caves might be a lot older than expected, or there's people that have been coming there even before that. Also, all these vessels have come from wildly different locations. A plane flying from Sydney, a plane from Africa, a boat from the US. The island might not be where they think it is in the world, or it can move around or something. Rousseau leaves, and Kate says that she can get them back to camp. The dynamite is in the hull of the ship, and they find that there are skeletons that are chained to the boat, which they assume are slaves, and that it was a slaving ship. My guess is the age of the boat and the invention of dynamite in the 1860s don't seem to line up, so maybe the dynamite was placed here later and it didn't actually come with the ship. They find 2 crates full of dynamite and carry one of them out. Arts warns them that they should be careful, and the dynamite will sweat with the heat, and the unstable nitroglycerin will have leaked out of the clay. He gets Kate to give him her shirt so she can soak it in water and then wrap a stick of dynamite in it. He then accidentally blows himself up while gesturing and explaining everything. They continue to gather up the dynamite and wrap it up, deciding that they should have 2 sets just in case one of the people that's carrying it blows up carrying it. Jack wants to carry the dynamite, but Kate also wants to. They draw straws, and Kate and Locke are the ones that have to carry it back. As they start going back to camp, Jack and Kate see a cloud of smoke that makes a chain rattling noise when it moves. They then hear the monster coming and take their packs off and start running. It grabs Locke's legs and starts to drag him. Jack jumps on and is able to stop Locke from getting stuck in a hole that it was trying to suck him down into. He tells Kate to drop a stick of dynamite into the hole, and which goes off, and the monster climbs away and releases Locke. Locke tells Jack that Jack is a man of science and Locke is a man of faith, and that he should have let him go, that it would have been okay. That everything that's happened is planned, and that it is all leading them to the hatch. All paths lead there. Jack says that opening the hatch is just about surviving the other's attack. Back at the beach, Charlie and Claire are alone with the baby that she has named Aaron, when Rousseau runs up and tells them that she needs to talk to Saeed about Jack and Kate. Charlie runs off to go get him, and Rousseau then asks if she can hold the baby, and Claire gets frightened by her tone. When Charlie comes back with Saeed and Shannon, Claire has been knocked out and the baby is gone. She says that Rousseau has taken her baby. Saeed thinks the most likely plan is that she is going to try to trade the baby to the others in exchange for Alex. Saeed and Charlie start going to the black smoke, which is where Saeed thinks that Rousseau will be. On the way there, Charlie sees a baby blanket and sets off a trap and gets hit on the head by some rocks. Saeed tells him to go back to camp, but he refuses. In order to stop the bleeding, Saeed takes gunpowder from a bullet and lights it on fire after pouring it into the wound. They then continue into the jungle and reach the down plane that Locke and Boone had found. Saeed says it's full of heroin, and Charlie looks down at a few bags. Once they continue, they reach the black smoke, which is no footprints around it, so nobody had approached it or walked away from it. It just appeared. They hear the baby crying, and Rousseau comes out. Charlie blames her and says that she lit the fire and invented the others in order to get the baby. He doesn't believe that the others actually exist. She then tells them she heard them over saying that they were going after the boy, and she assumed that it was the baby. But it now seems like it's Walt that's in danger. She thought that they would return her child in exchange for Aaron. But since they don't, she gives the baby back. Jack and the rest of the team with the dynamite reach the hatch, and nobody blew up. They set the charges, and Hurley hides the rest of the dynamite. When Hurley gets back, he gets near the hatch and notices the numbers on the side of it, and they are the same bad luck numbers. He tells them not to light it, the fuse, because of the numbers, but since he hasn't explained the numbers situation to anybody, they don't listen. He tries to stomp out the fuse, but is unable to, and Jack has to save him from the blast. On the raft, Michael tries to teach Walt how to steer the raft, but they hit a log and the rudder breaks off. Sawyer takes off his shirt and jumps into the water and hides the gun in his shirt. When he gets the rudder back, they are able to repair the boat, but Michael notices the fact that Sawyer has a gun. They keep sailing until nighttime, when after checking the radar once an hour like they are supposed to, they see a blip. It starts to move away, and Sawyer wants to use the flare gun, but Michael says that they should wait. Sawyer convinces him, and they fire the flare. A small boat shows up that shouldn't be in as deep water as would have come from any other place. Shows up. They say that they need to take the boy. Michael refuses, and Sawyer starts to pull his gun, but is shot and falls into the water, and Jin jumps in after him. The others take Walt and then blow up the raft. Charlie brings Aaron back to Claire, and we see a statue of heroin in his bag. Jack and Locke remove the blown door of the hatch and look down to see a deep hole with a ladder. That is it for the first season of Lost, and we should be starting season 2 soon.